being sad doesn't make you smart. It seems your heart just needs a fresh start. Higher than the rest, far from all the voices telling us we can't. Higher than the pain. We can make it, we can take it easy. Is this reality? We choose what we see. Close your eyes. Is it just you who's too proud to let go? All your enemies you keep trying to hide, they don't exist outside of your mind. Higher than the rest, far from all the voices telling us we can't. Higher than the pain. We can make it, we can take it easy. Is this reality? We choose what we see.
You might have just opened the door to another dimension or parallel universe, where things in your deepest dreams could be real. You're listening to Sunday's Night Dreams, where time and space and reality might not really exist.
Well, good evening, everybody. Well, it's the 29th of January, and I just, Linda, I can't believe how fast January just flew by.
And let's keep on flying.
Well, JC, what have you been up to today?
Oh, trying to stay dry, just hanging out with the family and trying to stay dry. Typical boring Sunday. But was that you that was laughing?
No, that was a ghost.
Oh, I knew it.
That was definitely a ghost. Or something. Well, you know what, Linda? 2 years ago.
Only two?
2 years, well, I could say 10 years ago, but I don't have those calculations in front of me. But you know what? If you go to the store now, today,
okay,
you would spend double, 50% more now, today, than 2 years ago for those groceries.
that sounds about right. Yes.
Yeah,
Especially the price of eggs.
Yeah, well, depending on where you are, eggs up to $18 a dozen, depending on where you're at across the country.
Well, at the store today, they say you can only have three. Just 3 dozen.
3 dozen.
Only.
Well, who would want more than 3 dozen?
Yeah, are they selling out at that price? My goodness.
They will start selling them out real fast.
Yeah, well, the bird flu is doing it. People still don't understand. They had to kill millions and millions of birds, and that has caused a shortage of eggs. When eggs go, get in short of supply.
And I guess we don't eat eggs.
Yeah, well, I don't like eggs anyway. They're icky.
Well, depends on how you cook them.
I don't. Somehow, I'd rather eat a chicken that has, flesh on a bone than eating something, it's just, in an egg form. I don't know.
Close your eyes and you'll never know.
Well, you know what? This is perfect up your realm here, JC. In South America, a farmer had 6 pigs. Now, these piglets were like miniature, but you know what's different about them?
Tell me.
They had human-like faces.
Oh, you know what? I seen those. That was horrendous.
I wonder what that farmer's been doing when his wife wasn't around.
Yeah, like, what are you doing out in the barn so late every night, honey?
Yeah, or something. I mean, dead giveaway. Hey, honey, those pigs kind of look like you.
Yeah, he's making the pork.
I don't know. Of course, there's people out there in our chat that take a poor, defenseless bunch of potatoes that have eyes and cook them.
Oh, no.
And I just couldn't cook anything that has eyes in it that could maybe be watching me cook them.
They'll squeal at you and look at you.
Well, a major condom company, and this is for you, Linda, and JC, but for you first, Linda, has come out with a new line of condoms. And they have all sizes. What's unique about these condoms, they're called alligator. And they have the ridges and scales on it, just like an alligator. But it goes as far as it says it's guaranteed 100% you can't knock somebody up with these because they resemble alligators.
Uh-oh.
And like the Egyptians used to do, they used to take alligator dung and force it up their girlfriend or wife's vagina as birth control.
Oh.
I wonder how many of those women died from major infections. But then they said these condoms, taste and smell like alligator dung.
At least it's organic. It's all natural, But,
I don't know. It could be artificial, ingredients. But would you like to have something, like alligator scales going?
So.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Nah.
You imagine applying for that job to collect the dung for the process?
Well, it's probably all artificial. They're not saying it's actual alligator dung. They said it, resembles it.
But hey, it worked for the Egyptians, right?
Yeah, but what do they know? They're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Tell me one pharaoh is still in existence.
But here's the other thing. What if it didn't work and the poor lady had a child? It was like, well, like the pig thing, looked like an alligator and a guy.
Do you really believe that? It was in the Mirror, Linda. Do you believe a guy had a litter of piglets that resembled the farmer? Do you believe that one?
Well, it'd be different.
Yeah, but the thought of it, though. The thought of it,
I'll just keep breeding them.
Could you imagine you slaughter them and you're looking at their poor little defenseless faces? And, of course, then the wife, on the other hand, might take a butcher knife to them really fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a whole bunch of piglets looking like JC?
Or.
Well, in New Mexico, they found some Bigfoot prints or monster prints. They're 8 feet apart in the snow.
8 feet?
8 feet apart.
That sounds like somebody got on some stilts.
No kidding.
Or something. Hey, JC, who do we have on chat so far here tonight?
Hey, we've got Kim, we've got Barb, we've got Nancy, we got Guillermo. Who else we got on that scene? There was somebody. Oh, William.
Yeah, and I think there's a few people hidden because they don't want anybody to know who they are. They probably don't want their family members knowing that they're listening to this R-rated show.
So true.
Well, you know what? In Antarctica, another iceberg broke off.
Oh, no.
The size of London, England.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a big chunka.
Yeah, could you imagine that? That would be scary.
Especially if it's floating down in front of our cities.
Well, I don't think, that's in Antarctica. How could it be floating in front of our cities?
Well, global stuff going on. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, you know that the core of the Earth, scientists are saying it's almost stopped. Okay, the magma in the center of the Earth is almost stopped, or it has stopped.
Uh-oh.
So, again, you've got different scientists that are coming out and saying all kind of crazy things like, we're going to have a reverse magnetic flip, that the radiation from the sun, solar flares could fry everybody, is going to speed up and throw everybody off the Earth when the Earth changes its rotation.
Oh, we'll just spin our lives
Well,
away.
have you ever took a ball and it's going one direction and all of a sudden you flip it the other direction? Just like a fan, right? A fly lands on your fan in your bedroom in the summertime.
Okay.
Okay, and the fan's going one direction. And you just said, I'm pissed off. I didn't want that fly on my fan. So you flip the switch and reverse your fan, and it throws everything off.
Inertia.
Yeah.
I think more of the hamster wheel and the hamster going one way and say, I'm not getting anywhere this way. I'm going to turn around and go the other way.
Yeah.
Spin my way.
Yeah, but it is really scary when you think about what could be going on in the future, very near future. Aircraft could be landing. They're taking off in Cincinnati and ending up landing in Hawaii when they were supposed to be landing in New York.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a simulation.
Yeah, there we go. I was
isn't
thinking of my geography here. It's like, okay.
Well, aren't we all in some type of artificial thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
A bubble.
Yeah.
A big bubble.
See,
you said that asteroid you mentioned was 22,000 miles. That was pretty close too.
20, yeah. Well, there was one that went by. It was 2,400 miles or 2,200 miles.
Yeah, 2,400 miles.
Yeah, that's close.
Real close.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They also found another asteroid yesterday. They didn't even know about it too. It flew by. There it is. Well, and that one was the size of a garbage truck, which would take out a city like New York.
Oh, yeah. Because those things are coming anywhere, 10,000 to 100,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, when they hit, it's like, hey,
The kinetic energy is unbelievable.
Well, you know what? Now scientists are saying that it's actually, they've been doing in the UK testing on it. The drugs that give you a hard-on?
Jeez, tell me more.
Not recently.
Well, anyway, you know what it is. It starts with a V.
Oh, that.
Yes, okay. Anyway, they're saying now it actually decreases death of heart attacks by 25%.
Oh boy, it's also going to increase the sales of them by about 80%.
Wasn't that how
too.
they discovered it that way too? They said, "Hey, you're curing this part of it and everything like that," and then we noticed, oh, this might be your side effect.
Well, they also in this article
Which is a
saying
good
that
thing.
even that they said it will give you 2 to 3 years longer on your lifespan,
On top of it all, Ooh.
averaging out.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm
most
going to go
people-
run and get some tomorrow.
Yeah,
Hey,
most
I'm
of
going to
them-
go at the farm. Hey, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to send Linda to the pharmacy, and she goes, hey, my husband wants that stuff to give you erections because he found out he has 25% less chance of having a heart attack, and he could live 3 years longer. And hell, I haven't had sex with him for years anyway, so I don't care what he does.
There you go.
Yeah.
Might as well
Perfect.
get some of that new alligator contraceptive
Well, yeah.
while you're at it.
You might as well.
Yeah. Have you ever sprayed that stuff you can buy? It's called fart.
Oh, don't get started with that stuff. Oh, you don't even have to spray it. You just take the cap off.
Yeah. Even after it's empty, you can add some water to it, and it still smell the whole house up.
I'm so glad my sinuses are stuffy.
Second life.
Yeah. You know what you do is you wait till somebody go into the crapper,
There
right?
you
And
go.
then you stand there and spray a whole bunch of it.
Or getting an elevator.
Yeah. Or that too. Do it in an elevator full of people. You know, kind of go,
And then say, Linda, what did you do?
yeah.
Oh, I did nothing.
I didn't do anything anyway. Scientists find a dinosaur so well preserved, you can even see the scales of the skin on it.
Oh, boy.
Preserved
That-
where?
I can't wait for the day they clone one and then, we have Jurassic Park and real.
I don't know, but that's getting interesting. You figure how long ago they died, and because of Antarctica melting, they're finding things that that is unique. That's,
Yeah. Right.
Well-
Wait till unthaws one of them viruses or something that's been dormant for God knows how long.
Yeah. Well, scientists also found that crows are intelligent enough. I'm talking about, the crows, right? They can actually learn words in a book.
Oh, my. And some smart birds there.
Well, crows are really smart if you really think about them compared to a lot of other birds.
They are, and they can be mouthy, too, let me tell you.
And they have a memory forever. If you don't feed them, or they remember that you fed them and you go and see them again the next day, they will remember and they will want more food.
Well, there was when we first moved here 20 some years ago, Linda, when I
Yes.
had my rifle,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a crow. It used to just drive me crazy, and I shot it.
Oh, my goodness.
And you don't want to do that when there's a
No.
few other crows around. And then the next day, there wasn't a few crows.
There was a lot.
There was a lot of crows all around the horse pasture, in the trees, and all that stuff. And every time you go out, they would make their squeaking noises at you. And then the next day, there was more crows. Like they were calling up their friends and saying, you got to come over here. This guy offed one of us. And within 3 or 4 days, there were literally hundreds of crows in our horse pasture in the trees of the cedar trees. And then after a while, they all just disappeared.
Yeah, you're lucky they didn't give you a little surprise flyover.
Now they probably would have. Well, a couple who quit their jobs to live off of the grid. They made a cabin. They did everything. They had solar, everything to be off the grid. They saved their own water and all this stuff. Well, the neighbors didn't like it. So what they did is they bought the property all around this other couple's property. And then what happened is that to get payback to them is they wouldn't let them come out of leave their property or go onto their property. Because the way the easements were, hey, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to come through my property to either come or go on your property.
It says you're self-sufficient. You don't need to.
So-
There you go.
Sounds like you might get an idea there.
Oh, another quick one here before our guest comes on. McDonald's customer goes into the drive-up. He gets his bag of food. He drives off and he notices there's tens of thousands of dollars in it.
Oh, my goodness.
Oopsie.
And what happened is that's how they used to put their money in it to take it to the bank. They would put it in a McDonald's bag, and somehow one of the employees grabbed the wrong bag and handed it to a customer. thank God the customer was honest enough to give it back to him.
Maybe minus a few bucks.
What a happy meal that was.
Yes, exactly. Kids meal. Oh, man. Good
And
stuff.
there's some people saying that a UFO diverted a huge solar flare that was big enough to take out the Earth, and it deflected.
Wonder who did that.
Well, ETs did that.
Oh,
That was the ones that are here to help us.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll be back with our guests here in a few minutes. You're listening to Sunday's edition of Night Dreams Talk Radio. We're a little bit different than our weeknight one. I hope you enjoy it. And just think about it. You know, they have strawberry flavored condoms. They got chocolate covered. How about alligator dung condoms?
try something different. Nummy.
Yeah, well, I sure wouldn't want to try it.
My goodness.
Come
Me
along on a unique journey of adventure and discovery. Read On the Trail of Bigfoot, a first-hand account from paranormal researcher and skilled outdoorsman Mike Dupler on his many years of investigations into the Bigfoot phenomena and his personal encounters with these enigmatic creatures of the forest, complete with photographs. Don't delay. Order your copy today. This book will inspire those who have answered the call to seek this elusive creature, the Bigfoot. The truth is out there. On the Trail of Bigfoot by Mike Dupler. Available now at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and IndieBound.org.
Son of a southern man, daughter of a freedman, children of the Civil War. Blackbird on a limb, both of them diving in deeper than they've been before. And down a red dirt path, covering their tracks, strangers in the light of day. Can't fight it, can't stop, and if they get caught, it's gonna be hell to pay. So baby, meet me down by the Roanoke River, where the cool dark water meets the full moonlight. If we can sneak away, maybe we could be together. Can't nobody stop love tonight. Didn't know they'd been followed down through the hollow till a hand grabbed her by the arm. Blood's thicker than water, but even his father ain't never gonna do her no harm. And whiskey on his breath, they were scared to death, and he was meaner than the devil himself. It was him or them, and you can call it a sin, but the Roanoke River won't tell. So baby, meet me down by the Roanoke River, where the cool dark water meets the full moonlight. If we can sneak away, maybe we could be together. Can't nobody stop love tonight. Can't nobody stop this love. 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 Oh, can't nobody stop this love. So baby, meet me down by the Roanoke River, where the cool dark water meets the full moonlight. If we can sneak away, maybe we could be together. Can't nobody stop love tonight. So baby, meet me down by the Roanoke River, where the cool dark water meets the full moonlight. If we can sneak away, maybe we could be together. Can't nobody
The strange news in brief. I'm Guy Ticker. Who is John Titor? It all started on November 2nd, 2000, when an internet user with the handle timetravel_0 began posting on a forum, claiming he came from the future and had just stopped by at the turn of the century while on task to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer system from 1975. Quote, "My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit, manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by 2 topspin dual positive singularities that produce a standard offset Tipler sinusoid," close quote, he wrote. The user later began posting on forums using the name John Titor, generating a lot of curiosity and interest. The story was covered extensively by the popular supernatural and conspiracy-themed radio show Coast to Coast, hosted by Art Bell. On March 21st, 2001, Titor stated he was returning to 2036 and stopped posting messages. He hasn't been heard from since. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You might have just opened the door to another dimension or parallel universe, where things in your deepest dreams could be real. You're listening to Sunday's Night Dreams, where time and space and reality might not really exist.
And we are back. Now, I want to take a minute before we bring our guests on. A lot of people are wondering why I've been missing some shows and all this stuff here recently. Well, I'm dealing with throat cancer. And I'm going to be blunt with you. There are some days I literally can't talk. There's other days I can talk. And I'm going to be going in for more treatments here in the very near future. And hopefully we can nip this. And my only concern is I'm trying to keep from losing my voice permanently. Because, I mean, how could I do a show if I can't talk? Well, you know what, JC? I could, use sign language?
Yeah, yes, I could.
Yeah, I do occasionally with my wife behind her back.
Yeah, I bet you give the old few signals behind her back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Anyway, she's going to run to the pharmacy tomorrow to get me some of that medicine. Or I can,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? I mean, stuff to give you erection, they find out it can give you 3 more years average to your life and cut heart attacks down 25%. I think it would be the other way. I would think anything that would give you erection could give you a heart attack.
And most of the people use that are what, 80, 90?
There's people in their 30s and 40s. But you better look, buddy. The average man's performance starts dropping at around late 40s, mid 40s.
Well, yeah, I guess unless you're a farmer.
Yeah, and you have a bunch of piglets.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, what can you tell the listeners about our guest tonight?
Our guest tonight is Rob Shelsky. Now, he is an established author of many books covering UFOs and the paranormal and the strange. Now, he has done much research on all these fields for many years.
Well, Rob, it's nice to have you back on. You haven't been on for a while. Have you been staying out of trouble?
No, I haven't. Apparently you haven't either.
I never,
Maybe James has.
Well, James is rather boring. You know what he does is he sits all day long and watches I Love Lucy.
So this is my girlfriend, Regina. I had to copy all the discs for her because they're starting to fade with time, getting problem scratches. So I had to copy all of her discs, some 12 of them. She absolutely adores I Love Lucy.
People have lost, the thought of humor. I hate to say it, maybe because I'm old, but I was talking to somebody about the Marx Brothers, Groucho Marx here the other day, and they go, well, who is he? What did he do? And I go, oh my God, you had Groucho Marx, you had, the Three Stooges, Amos.
Stooges, yeah. I had someone the other day say they've heard of them, but never had seen them. I said, you've never seen a single episode of the Three Stooges?
Oh, yeah. And then Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. I mean, that, was comedy.
Oh, I know.
And
when I was a kid, I loved those movies. They were already into reruns on TV, but I loved them,
well, I still
I
watch
wasn't
them.
born until 2010, you understand?
Uh-oh. You sound really like an adult for that age. You know that.
Yeah, well, I'm old for 12 years.
Are you taking your numbers and using, the string theory and making yourself younger?
No, I'm using dog years.
Well, I guess that would
For
work.
every 7 years I've been alive, it's 1 year in dog years, so I'm going with dog years, okay?
Yeah, that works. Well, JC uses, cat years.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
At least there's an alligator year.
Okay, are we going to talk about alligator dung for the rest of our lives now?
Now today's the last day, I hope.
I hope so. I mean, I'm going to get a lot of mess. I'm going to get probably a letter again from the FCC for what I said tonight at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, you're just educating the
Oh,
public.
I don't
that's all.
think you will.
Pardon me, sir?
I don't think you will. I don't think you can do that.
Last week I got 2 last week.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I like paying fines to the government. Somebody got to support our government. Well, Rob,
I'm not into things.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was saying, do you still write 4,000 words a day?
Yeah, I do, but it's on slightly different topics now. I'm doing a book, nonfiction book. I'm wrapping it up, actually. It's taken longer than I thought it would, on the idea of shadow people in the shadow world. And I'm also, I've just finished a book, and a publisher has just contracted with me to publish it in England. It is a young adult book based on the idea of the shadow world, and it's fiction. But I often do that. I'll write nonfiction, and then I will use it in fiction, partly because I want to expand on the idea, and partly because I want to get the idea across to more people, including this time younger people, So it was amazing. I sent it out to 3 publishers, and within 4 days I got 2 yeses on it. And we're talking a very good publishing house in England. It's not print on demand. They actually print the books, store them in warehouses. So I'm all go for that,
I know we're going to be talking about UFOs, but, I get a lot of authors on, and I get a lot of self-published authors, and they don't realize how much work it is if you're a self-published author. I mean, they don't understand. They crank out the book, right? And they either do it through Amazon or they use some, service and pay a lot of money and get a couple dozen books. And then they wonder why their books don't sell. They don't want to spend any money. They don't want to go to book signings. They don't want to go anywhere to promote. They just think, I wrote a book. I'll put it on Facebook and everybody's going to buy my book.
Yeah, that's not the case. And even if you would publish this now, they don't do a heck of a lot of marketing for you. They expect you to do it all, and at your own expense, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the best of all possible worlds for authors anymore, whether self-published or published through publishing houses. But this is a good one. They have a good, strong marketing team. I've already hooked up with them, and so hopefully this will go well. I might even have to fly to England to do some book signings and stuff at local bookshops.
Well, if the UK
I mean,
if
would
the
that be a burden to have to go to England?
well, if they're still there, you never know. I mean, Putin keeps saying,
Yeah, I just was reading today where he apparently had threatened Boris Yeltsin with saying, I could send a missile your way, and in 1 minute, my problem with you would be taken care of.
Well,
The ex-prime minister.
Yeah, isn't it scary when you think about society is down to, minutes, and everything we have worked for could be gone? And isn't it crazy if you think about going back to the Bible, going forward from the Bible, we haven't stopped killing and we haven't stopped wars. And it just continues on and on and on. And we're never going to be a civilization one, because I don't think we're going to ever reach it. It's just everywhere you look in this world.
Well, we're over halfway there now. So,
But,
you're talking about the Kardashev?
Yeah, but look at the doomsday clock. Look how close that is to striking.
Yeah, but it's been like 1 minute to midnight on and off for decades. I mean, you and I both can remember back when the Cold War was at its peak, and you used to have nightmares about atomic wars happening, bombs going off and stuff like that. And ducking and cover in school and all that stuff. I mean, if you think about it, I don't know. I mean, is the situation good? Is it ever good? No. But if you look at the history of civilization, it is upward. We may take a step back for every 2 steps forward, but the general trend over the last 5 to 17,000 years has been upward. We no longer live in mud and daub wattle huts. We have all sorts of technical things at our disposal, and I just got smart lights for my house, and I love them.
I got to say this. 2 weekends ago, my son and his family was over, and my grandson, who one of them is 8 years old. And, you know, he said this once before, but I really didn't pay attention. So we were watching TV, and he started making these funny faces, and he fell on the floor. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, we just got nuked, and I'm being cremated." Here's an 8-year-old saying something like that. I almost pissed my pants.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, there is a lot of this apocalypse is coming, doomsday stuff. If you look on YouTube, there's all sorts of people that are constantly saying this, but watch them for a while and see what the results are. There's a man by the name of Peter Zeihan. He's very intelligent, but he talks about the collapse of China, the collapse of Canada, the collapse of Russia, the collapse of the United States. Everyone's going to collapse. And 9 months ago, he said, in 3 months, the collapse will occur. We'll all be, they'll all be over. That was 9 months ago. I'm still waiting,
Well,
and when I was a kid, people walked around with signs saying the end of the world is here. Well, my mother and father grew old and died waiting for that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the general trend is upward.
Well, look how many people used to go in the caves, to be, they went in caves because they were convinced by their cult that the world was going to come to an end. Look at that one cult in California, back 15, 20 years ago, where the leader, the minister of the church got everybody to sell everything they had.
Oh, yeah, they sold off everything, and they went and waited on a mountaintop for it to happen, and it didn't happen. So then he named a new date for it, that there's a slight error in the calculations. So they all formed again for it. It didn't happen then. I don't think it's in anyone's interest to end the world, not even Mr. Putin's, because he wants to live just as much as everybody else does, and his dream is to revive the Russian Empire, not to nuke it into radioactive ash. So...
yeah, but
there's a lot of blusters burning for 11 months, but I haven't seen any nukes yet, and I hope I never do.
Well, I hope not. But, again, I really think society has been rebooted before. I think we get to a certain level, and then somebody does something stupid, and we end up having to start all over again.
Well, I hope not. I haven't seen a lot of evidence for that, actually. I mean, we've dug up dinosaur bones that are 65, 68, 100 million years old. We've yet to dig up an old car or an old airplane or an old rocket.
Well, they might be up here in the near future, in the next 100,000 years, dig up a lot of pop bottles. Oh, we just lost him again. Okay. He's on what, cell phone, JC?
Yeah, he's on a cell phone.
Yeah, let's wait till he calls back. But again, okay, there he is. See, we talked the magic talk, and you got bumped off.
I know I did. I don't know how that happened. I was in the middle of a sentence, too. Oh, someone in the government doesn't like me.
Well, again, what do you think about UFO disclosure? The Congress. I actually, honest, this is a true, real quick story. I popped a whole bunch of popcorn, got my soda, got in my recliner when all that was going on. And to me, it was like a comedy. Watching the congressman, and you bringing all these witnesses in and talking about disclosure. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just thinking about what you said. Well, some of them honestly want it. It's not anything new, by the way. Senator Inouye of Hawaii, before he died, he was a senior senator. He had a lot of years in Congress, or the Senate, actually. Actually, Congress is both the Senate and the House, but we always think of Congress as just being the House. But he wanted full disclosure, and he's the one that said there is a secret government that has its own military and its own political force, its own army and its own navy. So he was really big on this, like, I don't want to call it deep state, but a hidden government behind the real government. So this is not, and he wanted disclosure on UFOs, but he didn't get it. And none of these other congressmen are getting it either. And I think it's the same old problem. They're not in the need to know file, so they're not going to know. Although, reluctantly, the Pentagon has been releasing more and more information in drips and drabs. So, and I've mentioned this before, I don't think we're going to ever get hard disclosure. When we do get it, we won't even realize it's hard disclosure because it'll be dripping out steadily like a leaky faucet to us, like it already has with the UAPs. I love when the government can't solve a problem, they simply rename it. Oh, we're not talking about UFOs. We're talking about UAPs here, unidentified aerial phenomena, not unidentified flying objects. I'm not sure what the difference is, but it makes them happy.
Well, you know why they changed it. You know why they changed it. It is because they wanted, to get their, how can I say it? They wanted to get the public not thinking about off-world. So by using UAPs, they can sit there and say, well, it was this. They can just a broad term. And rather than using the word UFOs. Right. So they wanted to change that to slowly condition people to not think about, little green men.
Well, that's very typical of the government. When we came out with the MERV intercontinental ballistic missiles, Reagan decided to rename the Peacekeeper missiles. Because doesn't that sound so much better than we're going to nuke the heck out of you?
Yeah.
I mean, the government does it all the time. They just don't like to use language that they think has emotionally laden terms for people, so they keep coming up with new stuff. But the government has admitted we have UAPs. How they're different from UFOs, I'm not sure, but it makes it a little more vague. Just an unidentified aerial phenomena. Could be a rainbow, right?
Well, it could be. It could be a kite too, or a weather balloon. But the whole point is,
it makes it much palatable. Yeah.
Yeah, but for every little bit of information that leaks out, then they turn around and give you disinformation at the same time to keep you more, confused. You know what I'm seeing in the UFO community is that everybody's fighting about it. Everybody has their own idea, Steve Bassett, which has been on my show numerous times through the years, I finally got to the point, like I was talking to you on the phone today. I finally, I just friended him and I just got tired of hearing the same thing. It's like, you hear something so long, we're going to get information with this president. It's going to come out in the next couple weeks. Or it's going to come out with Congress in the next couple of weeks. Or the Pentagon's going to release this information in the next couple of weeks. But you hear it for like 13 years. It's only going to be a couple weeks or a couple months away, and we'll have total disclosure. I mean, 13 years is a long time for, when you think about a couple weeks, a couple months, 13 years.
It is a long time. And I don't think you're ever going to get the government coming out and saying, unless they're absolutely forced to. You were saying they're confusing, and they are deliberately confusing because it softens the blow. They basically have said, yes, UFOs are real. Yes, they're buzzing our ships at sea and military bases and nuclear facilities. And yes, we can't seem to stop them. And some physicists have said they do not seem to be from anywhere on Earth, or we're not sure where they're from because they seem to defy the laws of physics as we know them. So what does the government do? Well, they've admitted these things are real, but then they say, but we don't know that they're from outer space. We have no proof of that.
No, and the latest...
How about the fact that these things can go super fast around the planet at hyper speeds, for one thing.
Well, the latest thing from the Pentagon, they're saying, a lot of the stuff like TikTok might have not been what we think it is. It could have been holograms. It could have been laser. Now that's no.
It could be a government campaign to unite the world with a fake UFO attack, alien attack, blah, 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 blah. The truth of the matter is these things are not holograms. We don't have the capability to float holograms in blue skies. We can probably do it in a cloud, but it would probably look like a hologram to most people. And these things have had a solid impact. They have damaged property, they have injured people, they have killed people. That doesn't sound like a hologram to me. But the government will say this, or the UFO community will say it even more. I don't know what's happened to the UFO community. MUFON has, to me, gone completely off the rails. I have no idea why they're doing what they're doing or what the reasoning is behind it. But we're getting so much disinformation. I heard you mention earlier about John Tidor. I mean, the man was an obvious hoax. He's disappeared from the internet now, and he and his brother were involved in this, and none of his predictions ever came true, and his explanations of time travel were borrowed mostly from science fiction movies, not from physics. The man, whoever he was a hoax and a charlatan and a fraud. But people will lap it up.
But do you know
go ahead.
TikTok? If you go on TikTok, there is time travelers everywhere on TikTok.
Well, there used to only be a few. Now there's a whole bunch.
Well, yeah.
And they all have different projections for the future, you know. And they all use the Tidorism thing where, oh, well, because I'm here and I've told you about it, that changes the future. Well, it's apparently changed it a heck of a lot because nothing you predicted has come true. We did not have a civil war. The United States has not been involved in World War III. We are not divided into 5 regions. That all was supposed to have been accomplished by now. So there you go. Now, are we on the verge of a civil war? No, I don't think we are. Are we having civil unrest? Yes. But if you look back in the 60s, the civil unrest was even greater. People back then were screaming, we're about to have a civil war. It's a collapse of civilization. But it didn't collapse. Life went on, and it usually does.
Oh, and you're right.
In fact, people say, well, all empires fall. But yes, empires fall, but world civilization has always continued forward. You know, Rome fell, you know, the original Chinese empire fell. There's all sorts of them that have come and gone, Babylon, you name it, Sumerian. But their knowledge is passed on, and in other areas of the world, it's still growing.
You're right. But one thing I will say about time travelers, JC, jump in here. You remember that one time traveler we kind of made fun about? He was really famous on TikTok for about a month, and he was bringing pictures back from the future. And I didn't.
I remember that one.
Yeah, and what it was Polaroid pictures. You would think in a couple hundred years from now, I mean, Polaroid was more famous than it is now.
Yeah, I think he has to come back to get the old film.
Where can you almost buy Polaroid film? It's kind of hard to get.
Yeah, he must go back to 72 or something. Too.
Yeah, and then he gets it, then goes back to the future, and then he, instead of having a digital thing, right, showing a digital picture, right, it's Polaroid pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's a time traveler like you are, and I am, JC.
Yeah. He's
I mean. First of all, I don't think time travelers, when they come back, their sole reason to come back is to get on the internet and say, hey, I'm a time traveler, and I'm predicting. And they're all predicting different stuff. And, I mean, there's one right now that's predicting that aliens will come to Earth. I think it's going to be called the Champion or something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and, I mean, this stuff just goes on and on and on. And it's getting really hard to separate the wheat from the chaff. And that's what frustrates me. I mean, having been a member of MUFON, and then watching how MUFON sort of derailed as well, that's the hard part to me. I mean, now their membership director is Teresa Lynch Kale, and she has quite a elaborate background, and a great deal of it is in psychic stuff, and she does that all the time. And I'm not sure. And Stephen Greer, I mean, he has this new system where he summons UFOs, and he does it by meditation and using his CES application. I mean,
well, Stephen
really?
Greer, I got to say this, okay? Rob, Stephen Greer I know he just started that, but, you know, he's still not as advanced as JC. You remember the one guy had his wife who could go out and point up in the sky and the UFO would appear?
Yes, not only could they summon them, but they could decloak them.
Yeah.
Also. Yes.
Now I wonder what drugs they're using.
Yeah, could be, or was it something else that people were viewing, or did they know what time a satellite was passing over, or whatever?
No, I think.
I need a little more to go on than some prophet sitting on a hilltop and pointing in the sky and saying, "Here's a UFO." Now, granted, that was pretty impressive, but you know, in the 1800s, the Victorian period, psychics and mediums were all the rage, and they had some pretty impressive shows until Houdini came along and started in England and started debunking them. So I believe UFOs exist. I think the evidence is overwhelming to suppose that they are real and they are here. But if we start launching off into this kind of, she's also a demonologist. That's another thing. I'm not sure what a UFO expert organization is doing with a demonologist who is out to increase the member base. Who is she getting into that membership? My state director here in North Carolina quit because of this, and I quit too. I felt it was no longer a group that was really interested in the truth, that they'd gone off the rails and become all metaphysical. Originally, MUFON was all about gathering hard facts, data, and building a huge, wonderful database, which they've done.
Well,
allowing all of us to be able to use it.
Well, Rob, a lot of people don't realize that to become state director, if somebody retires, you have to buy that. You just don't get appointed to it. You got to pay for that every year to be state director. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Pay.
Well,
she didn't pay.
But
no, I'm sorry. Not the original state director didn't pay. She's a good friend of mine, Lakita Adams, and she didn't pay, and she was very frustrated with what was going on the board.
No,
and
most states directors across the country, because I've talked to quite a few of them, to get that position, they have to pay MUFON to be state director.
Oh, yes, they do now. Yeah, they definitely do now, and they have had for a number of years. She quit a few years back. But, yes, they do have to pay. And to be on the board, you have to pay. And these people who are on the board now paid rather large, shall we say, donations to the group in order to be where they are. At least I know some of them did. So, and the minute you start selling positions, then anyone who has the money can buy them, and they may or may not be the best choice. And I'm sorry, but a demonologist doesn't belong to ufology. Not for me. I want to know what's real and what isn't real. And getting heavily into metaphysics and meditating and summoning up UFOs and demons too, apparently, isn't my thing and never will be my thing, unless someone can prove to me that demons exist. But and they might. I'm not saying that they absolutely don't. But with my science background, I have to go with the facts. Our whole civilization has grown because we have used facts. You can say I don't believe in, you can have conspiracy theories about anything. I don't believe in refrigerators. I don't think they exist. Try walking through one. That should prove to you whether they exist or not. And that's the way I feel about UFOs. Yes, we've got to kick the tires. We've got to examine these things. We've got to get to know them. We've got to know who's bringing them and what. But we're not going to do it by sitting in a yoga position on a bed and going Om for an hour and trying to summon up UFOs or aliens. Is it possible? Yes, anything is within the realm of possibility to some degree. Is it probable? No.
But Rob, but you have to look at it. It's not just ufology. You know, people like Ron Moorhead about Bigfoot, for example, you know, who used to go up in the mountains. He had a camp and he used to record the sounds, the Sierra sounds of Bigfoot. And he witnessed seeing them, right? But what happens is people get frustrated, you know, doing this research after a certain period of time. Then they start thinking, well, maybe they're not flesh and blood. Maybe they're, you know, something else. Maybe they're coming from a parallel universe. Maybe they're magical. Maybe they're this or maybe they're that. And when I start hearing that, then I realized, you know, they lost their way. And I will say this to anybody out there. If you think we're the only people on a campground on this planet, there's other planets way older than Earth that have, you know, where they could support life. You know, they have found over 100,000 planets that could support life so far. And if you really think about it, you know, technology of these planets and civilizations could be so far advanced compared to us, where we think about time travel at this point maybe might be possible someday, or going through wormholes, black holes, or how we even, maybe we don't even know how they get here because we can't comprehend it yet because we're not that far advanced. We're little kids in diapers yet. And you look at, you know...
Well, architect Clark said that any truly advanced civilization would appear as magic to us. And it would, if they could create a black hole with the snap of a fingers or whatever. And I don't know if you ever remember the old movie Forbidden Planet from 1952.
My favorite show. My favorite movie.
Yeah, and it was a good movie. And there was a race that had become so advanced, 1 million years of civilization, and they were able to summon up anything through a non-physical instrumentality, just with the energy that they had managed to steal from their own planet's core. And of course, it ended up destroying them. Usually does, whenever you try to be like God. Our civilization always says you can't be. Knowledge is a dangerous thing. That's something that is woven into our consciousness from religious backgrounds, from everything, mythology, you name it. Humans are not supposed to enjoy knowledge or have knowledge. We have been taught for thousands of years that this shouldn't be so. The Bible talks about the forbidden fruit, 2 trees in the garden, tree of life, tree of knowledge. Which one's forbidden? Tree of knowledge. Prometheus gives fire to human beings. He suffers eternal damnation by the other gods for what he did. Tied to chained to a rock with eagles pecking out his heart and his liver. So, I mean, the penalty for giving humans knowledge is a very great one and has always been. So, and I think now like you said, a lot of people are frustrated. So they're wavering. I'm not against coming up with new ideas. UFOs could be interdimensional. They could be from the future. They could, we don't know where they're from. So I'm not discounting these possibilities. But when something looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I have to say it's a duck. And these things fly around and buzz, and although they evade the laws of physics, they obviously are interested in certain things and in doing certain things. They have an agenda. And so therefore, they must have an intelligent guidance behind them. And they are real because we photographed them, all sorts of things. Our Navy has, our Air Force has. The evidence is overwhelming that these things exist. Where they're from is the question. Why they're here is an even bigger question. Well, have they always been here?
I think so. If you really think about the Maya civilization, if you think about the Incas, you think about even the pyramids. Like I had a so-called expert on my show a couple of weeks ago, and she said, the pharaohs, they were the ones that built the pyramids. And I don't buy it. Because, I just think about it. I don't think, one, they didn't have the technology to cut those blocks. They didn't have the technology to transport them. And, and then they have the theory as well. They created a canal through the sand and brought these in from 75, 100 miles away. And they flooded have you ever took sand in a sandbox and poured water in it? Do you think there would be enough water in the Nile to create a big enough canal to bring, barges in to carry these heavy stones? They didn't have the technology. Like JC, we were talking the other day.
It's a big question. It's like Puma Punka, I think it's pronounced. Those rocks are welded together so that a razor blade can't fit between them. They look like they've been melted and adjusted. I don't know how they did it. And then they've bored these holes in there that are perfectly machined holes in these rocks. They're extremely intricate rock that they used, hexagonals and all that sort of thing. I don't see how. And I'm not putting down an ancient American civilization here. I'm simply saying that the people at the time simply did not have metalworking tools that could accomplish that.
Well, me and JC, we were talking about that the other night, weren't we, JC? The material, what was it, brass, copper, and that soft metals?
Right. So allegedly they use copper tools. I'm going to tell you something. Copper is soft, and granite, if you're not familiar with granite, that's some of the hardest stone known to mankind. And we're talking 20 to 100 tons block cut perfectly. And then, like you said, some of it comes 500 miles away, and then it's lifted, 300-400 feet in the air, fit perfectly? No way.
And, again, like I mentioned, Rob, on the show, back a few years ago, Flow Industries, I don't know where they're at now, but when I talked to them, they were in Kent, Washington. They're the one it perfected and patented and invented the cutting, cement and cutting rocks with high pressure water. Very accurate. And I asked the president of the company that time when I talked to him, I said, well, can you cut accurately the blocks like the pyramids and the Sphinx and all that stuff? And they said, no, we don't have that technology. So, I mean, think about how accurate all those blocks were put together with, and it's still there thousands of years later.
Well, and there's that one block up near that's in the quarry still, partially quarried out, up in near the. I'm trying to think of the name of that. The platform up in Lebanon. I'm trying to think of the name of it. The big stone platform the temples were supposedly built on, but the platform's way too large for the temples. But that stone is so big and so heavy that if we took every modern crane we have and moved them all the way around that stone, combined, they could not lift that stone. And there isn't enough room to put more there. So we are actually incapable of lifting that stone with the technology we have right now. So what the heck did it, and how did they do it? And were they smarter than we were? Did they have more technology than we? I mean, I'm sure there's an answer there somewhere, but I'm not sure what that answer is.
Well, again, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a 3-minute break. I have to for the radio stations and all that. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, the Mayas, the Incas, the pyramids and all that stuff. I really think the word God, as we think about, were gods, and they were from off-world, and they're the one that gave us our technology and all that. We'll be back with Rob right after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
There's a new air around me. The waves crash onto my feet. Breathing in my surroundings. I fall into a daydream. I look back to the palm trees in the hills by the sea, where I can set myself free to finally be at peace. Everything looks a little different without you next to me, holding my hand, but I'm okay with it. I'm just fine, taking it all one step at a time, moving slower than ever before. Somehow it feels like I'm doing so much more, lost in moments in my own mind. I feel less lonely when it's me, myself, and I. In my own mind. I feel less lonely when it's me, myself, and I. And I. Just me, myself, and I. Oh, just me, myself, and I. I used to.
The Strange News. I'm Guy Ticker. The Park Service wants visitors to stop licking its toads. People are getting sick from the toxins. Mini boat built by Rhode Island students makes it to England. December 9th, United Press International. A mini boat made by students at 3 Rhode Island schools was placed in the Atlantic Ocean and washed up on a British beach 10 months later. The boat, dubbed Inspiration, was made by students at Central Falls High School, Veterans Memorial Elementary, and Rice's Dual Language Academy, all schools located in Central Falls. The boat was akin to a message in a bottle. It had lots of information about Central Falls, about the schools, and about the students that helped build it. That, according to Andrea Gingras, Assistant Director of Public Engagement at URI-GSO, as she explained it to WPRI-TV. The mini-boat was placed into the Atlantic Ocean in March, 100 miles off the Rhode Island coast, by the RV Endeavour, the University of Rhode Island's research vessel. The small vessel's sails carried it across the ocean in 10 months, and in November, it was found on a beach in Christchurch, England. Woman's horror as neighbor's hamster chews through wall into her apartment. A woman was left horrified after she started hearing weird noises coming from the wall of her apartment. However, Kenna Buchanan was in for further fright when she discovered the source behind the strange sound. "There's something digging into our apartment," she said. She had come to the conclusion that a rodent was eating through the wall, but was baffled when she saw the neighbor's hamster making an appearance. Bankrupt crypto king charged in Bahamas after FTX collapse sees him lose $27 billion. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has charged the former CEO of failed cryptocurrency firm FTX with orchestrating a scheme to defraud investors. Quote, "We allege that Sam Bankman-Fried built a house of cards on a foundation of deception, while telling investors that it was one of the safest buildings in crypto," said SEC Chair Gary Gensler. And finally, 168 new Nazca geoglyphs discovered. Japanese researchers have uncovered a staggering 168 geoglyphs in the desert that's home to the famed Nazca lines. The remarkable discovery was reportedly made by scientists from Yamagata University, working alongside Peruvian archaeologist Jorge Olano. Believed to have been created at some point between 100 BC and 300 AD, the ancient drawings depict a variety of creatures, including birds, snakes, cats, and even a killer whale. One particularly amusing geoglyph found by the team is that of a human being that some have likened to Homer Simpson. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You might have just opened the door to another dimension or parallel universe, where things in your deepest dreams could be real. You're listening to Sunday's Night Dreams, where time and space and reality might not really exist.
Hi, this is Val Von Torn of Metatron Power and Light. You're listening to Gary Anderson and Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Well, thank you, Val. We're back with Rob. You know, you really think about some of this stuff with that. You know, you think about the Incas, the Mayas, what happened to their civilization. Then, you know, the pyramids and stuff like that. And then, even if you go back like to the Sphinx and things even before that, it tells me that something strange has happened. Why did the Mayas and Incas, why did they put so much of their energy in gold? Why did they think gold was so special, not brass and copper? So when the Spaniards came and invaded, I just think that, you know, gods, we've always had gods, Rob, you know, the god of the mountain, the fire god, you know, the god of the ocean. You know, maybe God was not God as we think about. Maybe God was a group of ETs that came down and you know, maybe mined the earth for some of resources and then built technology like the pyramids. We still can't figure out what the pyramids were built for. I don't think they were built to house pharaohs' bodies.
Well, there is no evidence to suppose that they ever housed pharaohs. Of all the tombs and things we found in Egypt, pyramids have no hieroglyphics in them. And it's very common and has always been common for any funerary type of arrangement to have hieroglyphics regarding the Book of the Dead on the wall, all sorts of hieroglyphics, charms, all that sort of thing. We haven't found any of that. We only found what we think is one sarcophagus in one pyramid, and that's it, with nothing in it, nothing on the walls around it, nothing. The pyramids are definitely odd. There is a shaft that is too small for any human to fit up. They're not sure what it was for, but it seems to go straight up the side of the pyramid and aims at the sky and aims at the point where Orion would be. If you look at the Egyptian pyramids from the sky, they make the same exact pattern on the ground that Orion's belt makes in the sky. And even more so, the Nile River flowing so close to them mirrors the Milky Way flowing across the night sky. They actually were mirroring the sky on the ground. And you don't spend that kind of money, that kind of capital, that kind of effort, and that kind of energy to create something like this unless it's really, really important or there's some overriding reason for it. We have evidence that there was a megalithic culture that was worldwide, and it suddenly ceased at all about the same time. I'm talking Eastern Island, I'm talking Asia, I'm talking Europe, even the North America. It had all ceased at about the same time, and apparently there was some sort of great flood. Now, this is from one of my books that I'm talking about now, but if we had an alien civilization that was using Earth as a colony and wanted gold, and that's why gold might have been so important to the Incas and the Mayans and also Europeans, it is a very rare metal. It is very soft to work with, so there is that too, and that might have been why I liked it. But these people, according to the Sumerian cuneiform text that we've managed to decode, say that there was a race of gods that came here to mine the gold, and they were unfit for the purpose themselves, so they created the human race to do it. And we do have evidence of 50,000, even 100 million-year-old mines in South Africa. This is incredible. And so who was mining this stuff back then, and why? But if we did have a culture that was from the top down, if the aliens had the technology, they would have used it to their advantage around the Earth to move quickly around it. So all the cultures of the Earth would be aware of gods and aware of flying machines. If they were dragons in China, they were thunderbirds in North America. They were flying shields or flying chariots in Europe and Asia. But they're all describing the same thing from their own perspective. But if that was ever withdrawn, that top-down culture was ever withdrawn, and there was some kind of massive flood or war that happened, that would explain why the megalithic culture collapsed. Without the communication system of those from above, there was no communication between different places on Earth, so the civilization was basically hamstrung everywhere and couldn't do anything but collapse. There is evidence for a great flood all around the planet. The Eastern Island statues are buried up to their necks. Now, either those people deliberately buried them, or there was some kind of flood that pushed that soil up there. The same holds true for places all around the planet. Something was going on. I have a hard time saying that. Göbekli Tepe is the oldest known structure we have found so far. It dates back close to 10,000 years, according to some archaeologists, and they're pretty mainstream. And it was apparently deliberately buried as well. Why would you bury something unless it was to protect it or preserve it in some way, if it was important to you? And why did so many civilizations collapse at about that same time? Why did the megalithic culture simply cease to exist when there were stone monuments in England and in Europe and Easter Islands and in places in Asia? I mean, how do we account for this? And why is the pyramid such a prevalent form of structure all around the planet? And why did we find rivers of so-called mercury in the Chinese tomb of the first emperor with all his buried soldiers there, and we've supposedly detected mercury underneath the Egyptian pyramids? What's going on here?
Well, you know, it tells me that there was technology far, far advanced. Now, I will say this, for some people, I know I'm going to get emails. My feeling is the kings or the wealthy people, you know, these pyramids were there long before they were there, and they decided to use them as tombs. Now, just here last week, you know, the Great Pyramid, they found another room in there. It's a big void, about 4,000 square feet. And, you know, and now they're...
Oh yeah, they have, yeah. They found it using a very advanced method of detecting particle streaming through it. So they're finding out a lot of stuff that's non-invasive now, but we're getting answers. Or more questions, as it may be.
Well, my feeling, I have had people, Rob, that said, you know, the pyramids were nothing more than a water pump. I disagree with that. Because if they were the pyramids were a water pump, then when you go into Mexico, the pyramids in Mexico, in Peru, and all around the world, right? They weren't. I don't believe they were water pumps. I think they all connected somehow, either for navigation or something to do with the Earth. We don't know. It's just, just like a week ago, for for long as people can try to figure out cement, for example, a little bit different topic, but the Roman cement, they finally broke how they made the Roman cement and why it could last for thousands of years when we have cement that gets stronger after a few years. But then when it gets about 100 years old, it starts decaying and breaking down, where the Roman cement actually kept getting stronger and stronger. And they finally broke that.
Wasn't that because they used volcanic ash in it?
No, what they found out is that, how we take the minerals and make it in fine powder form. They found that that the Romans didn't do that. They took it in hunks and broke it up, but they didn't process it like we did. And for some reason, they said when they did that, then the cement was way stronger. And that's what the scientists, it was a big article about it here in a science journal. They said that's how they did it. No one up to now has figured out how that was done. Now you think about the pyramids.
Well, that's true. I was in the Roman Forum in Rome, and that thing looks as good as it did when it was first built, and it's over 2,000 years old. That's amazing. And I can't imagine a building, one of our buildings surviving 2,000 years, not our skyscrapers, not our bridges, anything.
No, they won't. And
they just wouldn't.
And even in, they had bulkheads in the ocean, Romans put up. And, they've been submerged in the ocean for thousands of years, and they're not broke down. So, I mean, the technology, that we have lost so much technology. We think that we're so teched. We're not. Again, like the pyramids.
It's normal for civilizations to lose some technology. I mean, it goes out of fashion, or it just isn't used anymore. If you don't have access to gunpowder, the minerals required for it, you can't make gunpowder, for instance, so you go a different route maybe. But a lot of this technology is, I was talking about that platform in Lebanon, Baalbek.
Right.
And there's another one very similar to it in Israel, and it's called the Temple of the Mount. There's this vast platform, huge, with foundations that are incredibly huge and deep, and to the point where there's even tunnels and stuff underneath them. And they're made of the same kind of stone and made in the same way. Now, the Temple of Baalbek was a big platform that the Romans built temples on, but the platform had been there centuries prior to that. And even in Gilgamesh, the Babylonian legend of Gilgamesh, who also, by the way, is instrumental in their story of Noah, he apparently said he saw great things shooting up to the sky from the Baalbek platform, breathing and belching fire and thunder and smoke. And that sure sounds like a rocket. And if you're thinking about an ancient civilization that was using us as a colony just to get gold, they would come and go. And if they couldn't travel at the speed of light, then they were subject to relativistic effects. They could go very fast and time would dilate for them. So what might be a few years on board the ship could be centuries on Earth. So you would build, if you had a colony on Earth and you were going home safe for the summer and you wanted to come back, centuries might have passed on Earth, so you built to last. And they did. And that's why I think we have that megalithic civilization all around the Earth. When something was built, it was built of stone.
Well,
it was meant to last for a long time.
Well, but when you think about what happened to all the Mayas, Incas, what happened in Egypt with the pyramids, all that civilization, like they just vanished. And maybe it could be a couple of theories. One is maybe what they got, what they thought was feasible for them to get off our planet, and then they decided to maybe, unwind some of the stuff they created. Maybe some of the slaves, maybe some of these races of humanoids, they decided to they're gone. They destroyed them.
They did not want us to have knowledge, apparently. That's why throughout history, even ancient history, knowledge is the forbidden fruit. They did not want their slaves. Again, I mentioned this before, I think, but in America, just prior to the Civil War, it was a capital offense in the South to teach slaves to read and write. You did not want them to be able to communicate with each other. You wanted to keep them in their spot, in their place where they were. How did you do that? By keeping them ignorant. I have a feeling that's the same thing that's been going on with the human race since back in Sumerian times. We have priests in churches and in temples, and they're all praying to invisible gods. I think we used to have priests that actually did serve the gods. They were aliens. And I think they had to serve them in their temples, which probably were actually palaces. And the reason was because they were not a race native to Earth, and they found the Earth environment difficult to function in. And that's why the Sumerians say humans were made, so that they could better mine the gold mines. And the afterlife for humans in the Sumerian culture was horrible. In the afterlife, they lived in a gray world that was full of ashes and clay, and the only thing they had to eat was clay, and they were eternal slaves. Now, if a culture describes the afterlife as being that miserable, it's probably because their current lives were just as miserable. And even the Indian Vedic texts talk about the gods in a great war in space and then on Earth, and they talk about a rebellion of humans against it all. And so does the Sumerian religion. I think something went down a long time ago with the aliens. Maybe they were on the fringes of an empire, and there was another stellar empire that was fighting with them. Who knows? But they had to withdraw. And in the meantime, they had to try to control the whole world, and they did it with a very small population of their own. And they did it through technology and sheer power, the ability to destroy.
Yeah, but if you look at these, these societies that disappeared, you know, the Incas, the Mayas, and all, they just, all their civilization was there, and the next moment they were all gone. And something.
Well, actually, the Spanish conquistadors pretty much put an end to the Incan civilization.
Yeah, but then you got the Mayas, and you got the Mayas, and you got other civilizations that just vanished off of, you know, like in Peru, they just vanished. With, you know, and scientists
are some civilizations that have vanished so thoroughly we don't even know anything about them. Something caused the collapse of the Bronze Age in the Mediterranean, and it supposedly was the Sea People. We have no idea who the Sea People were. There are references to them in the Egyptian texts, hieroglyphics, but it doesn't describe who they are in enough detail for us to know who they were, where they came from. We have no idea, but they destroyed the entire Bronze Age civilization. It just collapsed because of their invasion. But yes, there is no doubt that civilizations have simply vanished. And there's a lot of them that people aren't even aware ever existed. And some of that might be natural, and some of that might not be natural. I personally think that we've had aliens here for a long, long time from somewhere else, another planet, another dimension, whatever. And I think they were here for the gold. Gold is very rare throughout the universe. It takes two neutrons colliding to make gold, and neutron stars, and that's very rare, and you know, on a cosmic level. So gold is rare everywhere, and yet it's highly valuable. And I don't mean just as a monetary thing. I mean for connections and stuff in electronics.
Well, not even that.
There's a lot of value in
you know, in like submarines and their rebreather, you know, to reproduce the air, or they could stay down for months. You know what they use? They use gold in it. That's one of the things that's in it.
We use platinum in our converters, which is even more rare than gold, and it's for the same reason. It scrubs the air going through it, so it's not so heavy with lead or pollution, you know. And I'm not a mechanic, so I'm probably diverging there. But
yeah, me too.
We use platinum for those things. We use gold in connections in our microelectronics, and the military uses it. So we have. And did you know there's not a lot of gold in the world right now? The current gold reserves of the world are equal to about 7 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of gold. That's the sum total of all gold in the world right now that's in use.
Well, how about silver? You know, we're running out of silver. And again, you know, your TVs, your cell phone, everything, computers. I mean, without silver, we would be in a major problem. And we're going to run into a problem here in the near future. There isn't going to be enough silver to match with the population for what they're making.
Well, maybe they'll find a substitute with the new AIs and all that. We're we're finding solutions to things that are actually better than what we use. We use silver and gold because it's what we had available around since the 30s and 40s and 50s. But we're past a vacuum tube, zinc-plated culture. We're now into a much more high-tech culture, and what we really need are rare earth metals, and and we do have them in America. It's just that we don't like mining them because they make such a mess to the environment. So we get most of it from China, and so does everybody else. But that can change. I mean, we have it here. We just don't want it. It's a bit like saying, well, I'd love to have fertilizer, but I really don't want to pump all the sewers empty to do it,
Right.
kind of thing. We've moved on.
Yeah, somehow I don't like fertilizer that has come from where they reprocess, human waste, and then you go buy a truckload of it and you grow beautiful like tomatoes from it. I just don't want to eat tomatoes that was grown in human waste.
No, but if you're on a spaceship, you'd have to have recycled water and recycled air, scrubbed clean with scrubbers.
Yeah, well, I got a cure for that.
And
If I'm on a spaceship, I'm going to make recycled beer also, because then I won't have to think of the taste of the water.
So are you a beer lover?
No, but I would be in that case, I'll tell you that.
Well, you could always make wine out of it instead if you like wine better, or distill it and make a hard alcohol.
Yeah,
You could make a tidy profit from that on board a big spaceship, couldn't you?
I guess so.
Run your own little distillery?
Yeah, yeah. Artesian urine water.
I was going to say, we don't have the answers to a lot of these questions. We have a lot of data and information, but we don't have the final answers. And my personal opinion is we're not going to get them if we're busy sitting in a lotus position and trying to meditate the answers, or trying to commune with a 60,000-year-old dead alien, which one of the members of the board tried to do at one point, from what I understand.
Well, I got to say
I
this.
may be wrong about that.
Our time is up. I got to say this about MUFON, and it's been bugging me since we started talking about MUFON. I've had a couple of state directors in the past that maybe investigated one UFO sighting in their whole career, and now they're a state director, like in one in Colorado, for example. It is a state director that never really investigated anything. And how could MUFON allow somebody to be a state director if they don't have any experience investigating sightings of, reports?
Well, perhaps it's all about money. So,
yeah,
I think that's a lot of it, frankly.
Yeah, well, it does harm, because there's a lot of people out there in ufology and cryptology. They want to prove this stuff exists, but then when you get to organizations that all of a sudden, because they get fed up, right? And the only way they can bring new members in is they have to deviate from what the reality is, and then they start going off to cocky pock. Okay, that's all I can say.
It goes off the rails. Yeah, when you have a demonologist, a reverend demonologist, sitting on the board trying to get new members, then you know what kind of members that they're going to look for. More people like themselves and not the hard science people. And that, to me, is a big mistake, and it's one reason that MUFON's kind of history for me.
Well, it is for me, too. Now, our time is up. Where can they find your latest book? Do you have a website? What do you want to share?
Well, they can find all my books at Amazon. It's that simple, or Smashwords, or Barnes & Noble. They can get my new book, Professor Trithemius and the Otherworld House. It's not available yet. It's still in the publishing process, which seems to take forever. But that will be coming out with Pegasus Publishing in Cambridge, England. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, hey, Rob, again, I want to thank you for coming on in short notice and all that. And keep in touch with our producer, will you?
Yeah, I sure will. And Gary, I wish you all the best on your health.
Okay, my friend. You take care, okay?
You too. You have a good night.
Okay. Well, JC, on Wednesday, who is our guest going to be?
Oh, boy. We've got Dr. Wilbur Allen coming on now. He's been abducted. He's been researching UFOs and videotaping and pictures and taking pictures. So a lot of years of research.
And Thursday, who do we have?
Thursday, we got Jeffrey Bruce coming on. Now, he's going to talk about the dangers of asteroids and comets and what can we do? Is there anything we can do to prevent these?
Oh, I got to answer how you can do it. You go outside, wet your finger, and you point where you think the asteroid is and just move it out of the way.
That seems to work. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, okay. It works for some people, calling UFOs.
That's true. Not only that, you can decloak them.
Yeah, that too. Our guest on Friday.
We have John Shaughnessy coming on now. He is going to talk about, matter of fact, how the pyramids were built. He wrote a book on it, and he's going to be discussing his whole theories and all that on the pyramids and how they were built.
Oh, that's going to be really interesting. The last person we had on, it was about their big, beautiful book about the pyramids, and we didn't really talk about the pyramids, which was rather frustrating. So I found this guy, and I think we can actually get in with another theory, because we really don't know how they were really built and the reason why. But, I'm open to anything other than a big, beautiful book.
Yeah, listen, there's no way you could cut granite with copper. You can't even cut that stuff precisely with metal tools.
Well, Flow Industries, again, the high water cutting pressure, they can't. I mean, whatever they did to cut them blocks and then transport it and then not just that, they still haven't figured out how they could lift those blocks up and create, without, structures supporting it, the pyramids, the height of 400 feet. I mean, think about that.
Right. The pyramid's 483 feet. Some of those blocks are like 300-400 feet up in the air. It's how can it be done? I don't. It's a perfect example of lost technology, maybe because they were rebooted and we lost it.
Well, again, I don't believe the pharaohs or the kings said, "Okay, I'm now the pharaoh. Okay, I instruct my people to build me a pyramid. It has to be built before I die." Now, again, how many slaves would it take to build a pyramid?
And how many? 20,000 over 20 years.
Yeah, it would be more than that. How many of them are going to die? Look at the heat in the desert. Then trying to, again, I just don't buy it. Could they use elephants to drag these big blocks anywhere up to 100 miles away? I don't buy that.
No.
And I don't buy the idea they built canals and flooded them, because then they would have had a technology to seal that. Because, again, if you took there's a certain amount of ratio of liquid you can put into sand. But, if you look at that, it was all sand. So if you make a canal and you put water in it, that water is just going to be like you got a huge sponge. It's going to keep taking it till it can't take anymore. But in this case, it's going to keep being absorbed out.
Yeah, it's going to be like quicksand. And I believe, I could be wrong, somewhere close to 2 million blocks in that Great Pyramid. I mean, you're talking you have to put a block in perfect position every minute for 20 years now.
I don't buy that. I think it was technology, off-world technology. I don't know. Maybe when we die, we'll have the answer.
Maybe. Or maybe we'll find out it's all a matrix.
Yeah, it could be. So anyway, we'll know here by Monday also who our guest is going to be next Sunday. We're still working on that. Our website has been updated. Check it out at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. If you have a story you think it would be great to share to the listeners, and you have at least 45 minutes of content, well, how do they get a hold of you?
Producer, nightdreamstalkradio at gmail.com.
Well, till Wednesday, everybody, I want to thank you for coming in on our Sunday show. Like I said, our Sunday show is a little bit weird compared to our weeknight show. And kind of, we're all adults here. And, I'm kind of, hey, like my morbid sense of humor comes out. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to get some of that medicine that gives you a heart on. Because if it can give me 3 more years of life and cut the chances of heart attacks down 25%, and it's supposed to cure balding on top of it, what better way to go?
Yeah, young and with hair.
And a heart on.
Right, there you go.
Okay, everybody, you have a good one. Say goodnight.
Come along on a unique journey of adventure and discovery. Read On the Trail of Bigfoot, a first-hand account from paranormal researcher and skilled outdoorsman Mike Dupler on his many years of investigations into the Bigfoot phenomena and his personal encounters with these enigmatic creatures of the forest, complete with photographs. Don't delay. Order your copy today. This book will inspire those who have answered the call to seek this elusive creature, the Bigfoot. The truth is out there. On the Trail of Bigfoot by Mike Dupler. Available now at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and IndieBound.org.
Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car. My brand new car, my brand new car. Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car. My brand new car, my brand new car. Gonna show you how the shifter feels.